This week has only two astrological aspects, both of which I covered in last week's overview, which took us to the 26th. But this week deserves its own overview because while both aspects are actually quite interesting to consider in and of themselves, and I'll tell you why I say that, even though we talked about it last week. The predominant energy of this week has to consider two other factors that are worth revisiting, because we're likely to be entering this week with a certain amount of antsiness and even potentially anxiety. Certainly a kind of a Two of Swords feeling. Like, here's the deal. Mercury went direct on the 20th. Today is the 23rd, Monday. And the first part of this week, particularly Monday, Tuesday, is likely to find us, it's a little bit like, oh my God, Mercury's direct, Mercury's direct, Mercury's direct, Mercury's direct, Mercury's direct, and we're expecting everything to move forward, and things are moving forward, but things are barely moving. So the first part of this week is likely going to have its own set of impetuosity, impatience, frustration, anxiety, because things are going to feel like they're not, it's like, all right, let's go. The fact of the matter is the wheels are creaking forward. They're sort of starting to creak forward. But it'll take till the latter half of this week for things to really feel like they're getting moving. So that's the first thing about this week that is worth mentioning. In addition, with Mercury going direct, we're likely to feel a certain amount of what I will call Mercury retrograde to direct hangover. Certain themes and issues that came up as we headed towards February the 25th and towards that Virgo full moon lunar eclipse on March the 3rd may feel like they're getting their closing parentheses. And on the one hand, it'll be nice to move forward from the crap that Mercury retrograde kind of flung up. But one of the things that we're all going to be left to consider is that while Mercury retrograde in and of itself can be left with some angst, Mercury going direct while Mercury retrograde contained eclipses also leaves us with a larger question. The changes that have been intimated to us for whom this applies, or where the rug has been pulled from under our feet, or where change is imminent, now that Mercury is direct, are we still moving towards seeing that change through? Or are we in a place where we can repair things so that the structure can hold? But what's actually changing is the way that we are going about our lives. So I've already mentioned three things. The speed, velocity with which things are moving, and frankly, the fact that things are not moving with speed or velocity yet, especially as we enter this week. And that can create its own frustration. Monday's here after Mercury retrograde, and we're ready to go. But, I mean, let me put it to you this way. Yesterday, I did a video that was meant to be a short addendum to the Cancer Rising video I did for Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And that took me 2 tries. All the videos I did this past weekend took multiple tries for whatever reason. Some technical, some verbiage, some not being prepared, some God knows what. Then I started doing the Leo Rising video for the membership part of the channel. That had to be stopped. Today I woke up thinking, all right, got it. We're going to move forward. I'm going to do the weekly overview, the Leo Rising, and maybe even get on to the next Rising Sign video. So have something for the free part and do my weekly overview that I always do, and do a couple of membership videos. And all morning, I got a notification from Spectrum that the internet was out. So I could have moved forward with recording videos, but I would not have been able to upload them. So I was just like, well, I'll take care of other errands, etc. The errands was, it was just like, and yet circumstances make it feel like my goodness, things have to move. The other thing is as you guys know, I'm offering this 25% discount on a 45-minute reading, and I've asked people to contact me by the 25th if they're interested in a 45-minute reading with a 25% discount. So, by the way, go ahead and email me in the description box below if you are interested. But because I've gotten a certain amount of interest, I'm also eager to get some of those things kind of scheduled and settled in, and some of the kind of typical of the time, because so folks have written in, but it's a question of, it's again characteristic of the time. Everyone is dealing with Mercury stationary retrograde. Oh yeah, I think I want to do it next week. I think I want to do it at this. So it's just like, oh my, I'm looking at my week going, I would love to have a sense of the structure of my week. So certainly, from everything that I'm seeing, experiencing and seeing, we're going to enter and have seen before, as we enter this week, it's still going to feel a little bit like that Hanged Man energy, like we aren't moving, or that Two of Swords energy. The second thing that I brought up already was that certain things thematically are going to feel like we're reaching some sort of a conclusion on Mercury retrograde related events. And the thing here that is very important to consider and ponder is, as I have mentioned to you numerous times, Mercury retrograde can really give us a sense of what path we thought we would be moving forward on or towards, but we are likely going to have to abandon, because Mercury retrograde gave us information or data, or so we may have felt like, oh, we've got these 8 cups here, we're gonna get a 9th, and we like these and we care about these, but Mercury retrograde said, you know what, there's something about either the opportunity or the environment or the people involved or something that you're not quite completely clear about. So let me just kind of bring up some things, and sometimes this can involve with Mercury retrograde going over past things, so that you can really sit and think through, I've had these intuitive red flags, I kind of rode over them. Heading into Mercury retrograde, I thought I was headed down this path and this is what the future would look like, but Mercury retrograde over 3 weeks has given me a bit of a reality check. And very often that reality check says, listen, with this particular experience, you're not gonna, 8 cups is enough. You're not gonna, it may be that you don't complete the cup cycle, that you've gotten what you can out of this. So it's important as we consider what Mercury retrograde in and of itself has brought up as to how we're going to be closing out and coming out on the other side. As I said to you last week, when Mercury starts to go direct, we often feel like we're getting a certain kind of closure on things, confirmation on things. Things are getting closed out that sort of got splashed around during Mercury retrograde. And one of the things I think it's worth it for all of us to consider is, what road did we think we were taking? What basket were we putting our eggs in? What track did we think our train would be on that Mercury retrograde is making us go, either this is not on the cards for you, or are you sure you want to hear some information? And so what you are left with at this time is a sense of, well, then I may have to go with option B, which has been around, but, or presented itself, but I always kind of took as a kind of a poor second choice because option A seemed like it was so likely, or else I might be left with no option at all. Option B that looks like a poor choice, that looked like a poor choice, may, during Mercury retrograde, if you're switching direction, switching tracks, you may not be switching the ultimate direction. It may just be that it's like, oh, I'm not going to fast track this. This is not going to move forward on the fast track. I may come back to it. I may not. I may be leaving it altogether. But option B is actually getting me out of a pickle. It's actually providing an option that is strangely enough, I wasn't considering, but might be the right thing after all. And having no option at all because you thought things were going to materialize in this direction, much like feeling like, oh, this job is going to come through, but now I'm wondering whether I should really take this job. And I don't really have an alternative, but I don't feel good taking this job. So it means that I'm kind of back to square one. But my experience, if you have no option at this point in time, remember, it's by leaving these sets of cups and the 8 of cups that you can actually move to the 9 of cups, which is the fulfillment of your wishes. And there's something about this time that, as you know, as I've been saying in the Aries part of the chart, with the Sun conjuncting Neptune yesterday and moving to conjunct Saturn, one of the 2 aspects for this week on the 25th, you have to leave what you thought you were building to get to feeling like, oh wow, I got to what I wanted. And some element during this time, I would strongly, again, say, is it connected to the house occupied by Aries in your chart and lessons from 2025 coming through with regard to, are you underselling yourself by associating yourself with a particular, has something been coming up since the end of February through this Mercury retrograde that has really made you think about, hold on a second, do I need to think in terms of really honoring my fuller potential, and how do I do that? And is part of, for whom this applies, is part of the Mercury retrograde giving you information, so you're wondering whether you need to go in a different direction or just kind of regroup. Very often when people feel like, well, I have no option as after Mercury retrograde, actually, you do have an option, and that's to play a bigger game. And you're just at that point where Mercury retrograde is spitting you out at the other end, and Mercury's just showing signs of creaking forward in disguise, where you have to forgive yourself for not having that bigger game worked out, for recognizing that the bigger game is going to have a longer arc, and that over the next 3 months, as you head to the next Mercury retrograde in Cancer, you can move towards, quite assertively, that bigger game. The astrology as the personal planets, the astrology of the next couple of months is very forward moving. So we have to ponder at this point in time what it is that has been readjusted. Remember that Mercury has to conjunct the Sun 6-7 times in a year, because our mind, it's so strange. Our solar knowing self has to kind of pull Mercury back or reconnect with Mercury all the time to get the mind and our connection to source in alignment, in alignment, in alignment. What we perceive of and see as facts and information and data is reliable only up to a point. And somewhere we need to connect with that source self. So first and foremost, general tempo is going to be weak, starting with this week as the week starts, and that is going to create its own kind of anxiety and frustration, and I need things to move forward, or I'm feeling the sense that the other shoe is going to drop somehow. The second feeling is as I process through Mercury going direct. And listen, when we have to make a decision like this, look at the moon. I mean, even the moon looks a little bit sad and pensive and kind. Leaving things or leaving an option or thinking that an option was what you were building, but having to abandon it, recognizing that you can't put your eggs in a particular basket, so you've got to retrieve those eggs and either wait for another basket to appear or put it in another basket, option B, all carry a certain amount of, as I've said to you before, when you go through Mercury retrograde and the Mercury retrograde reality checks, the bigger reason for a Mercury retrograde, not the surface, Avi can't get to doing his videos because he has to keep doing them over and over again, kind of annoying, or the internet is out for the third or fourth time during this particular 3-4 week period. Again, the internet outages are repaired in about 3 or 4 hours, but it just means that for that time, it's just like, okay, I guess I'm just waiting. That's all minor. The bigger feeling of Mercury retrograde and the course adjustment has to come with some element of, it always feels like our butt hits the ground, because sometimes when Mercury is moving forward quite quickly before it is going to go retrograde, especially that month before it goes retrograde, we really are starting to gather momentum in a certain direction, starting to get excited about a certain direction, and then Mercury has a tendency to go, let me just reverse and let's get clear about a few things. Are you sure? And so it can create this feeling. Now, not everything we're excited about is affected by Mercury going retrograde. Mercury is direct. Something could come up in the next 6 weeks, and it could feel like, yeah, no problem. Everything's great. That's not going to be affected by Mercury. It's typically a particular narrative of something that is gathering momentum that needs to be fact-checked or corrected. So, point number 2, point number 1, things are slow. Point number 2, we're closing out this Mercury and processing where we're at. And do we have an option B? Or is option B kind of taking a deep breath and pursuing a bigger game, or a game that honors our potential more, particularly in the Aries part of the chart? I'm going to come to that because both the astrological aspects of this week are in the Aries part of the chart. Number 3, as Mercury goes direct, because Mercury is direct in Pisces, and Mercury is going direct after conjuncting the North Node in Pisces, and Mercury is still slow but gathering momentum, this marks our recovery. Remember the title I gave the New Moon in Pisces video, recovery. This marks our recovery from the eclipses. And the eclipse cycle of releasing something in the Virgo part of the chart is what has had the most potency. See, this is what I'm telling you. I'm going to have to edit this half onto the first half because I set an alarm for myself. What for? I have no idea. And it went off. And when an alarm goes off, the video that you're taping on your iPhone automatically stops. Anyway, so yet another video that I can't just upload, and I'm going to have to edit. But you know, Mercury is creaking forward, so I don't have to redo something. So we keep moving forward. The eclipse that we are really recovering from, we had a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. It was a South Node eclipse on September 21st of 2025, and its corresponding full moon lunar eclipse on March the 3rd. And as I said when we were talking about that March the 3rd video, either the pressure being put on us to release something in the Virgo part of the chart so that we can build something, continue to build something, and move towards building something in the Pisces part of the chart, accelerates, or we actually end up releasing something and it creates pressure to make up for the deficit of releasing something that was a source of security but we knew was dying out. The third energy that we're likely to be feeling, and there is a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, and then the aspects, is this sense of recovery from the eclipses as this week moves forward and Mercury goes further and further direct. And Mars is already moving forward, of course, in the Pisces part of the chart. We will move towards recovering from the eclipses, but we might be left with the question of, have the eclipses created some kind of change where I need to see something completely collapse to the ground? Or have the eclipses started some sort of change as a warning that if I don't change something in my behavior or pattern, then it will collapse to the ground, but I can still keep it up? What we do know is that we need to accelerate now, moving towards building whatever we're building in the Pisces part of the chart, which might involve some sort of a mixture, you know, it could be one of two things: stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart from the crises building in it since 2012 and reaching some sort of a peak, or certainly some sort of a crisis point in 2016 and 17, 14, 15, 16, 17. And that since 2023 we've been in the process of dealing with, but now we might really feel like, okay, you know, when you, by the time, well, here's what's so fascinating. By the time you get to the April 17th Aries new moon, all that's left in Pisces at that time is the North Node. By April the 17th, all the energy is out of the Pisces part of the chart. Now, that new moon on April the 17th will help things move forward in both the Pisces and the Aries part of the chart, because the new moon in Pisces just a few days ago on the 18th of March had a stationary Mercury incorporated into it. So there's, and we are now in the middle of and have entered the building something through communications phase of the Mercury cycle in Pisces. That's going to stay with us till July. So we're still building, repairing, recovering, but we're left to ponder the question: have the eclipses in Mercury retrograde announced a change as a result, especially of the eclipse of releases over the past 6 months in the Virgo part of the chart? That means that I've got to say goodbye to a particular edifice. And so there's a whole set of actions and activities that's going to accelerate in that direction. And change is always challenging, even if it's exciting. Or has the threat of change made me change what I need to change in order to keep that structure standing? And we might be in a place where we're like, well, while we're in Hanged Man, Two of Swords mode, I don't know what the answer to that question even is, because things are not moving forward enough for me to be able to tell what I need to do and how I need to go about doing it. So just continue to wait as the next week or 2 weeks move forward, and you'll get that answer. Related to this, point number 4. We can expect, and it is required of us. Oh my God. Can you hear that, child? We're juggling two sets of energies in the Pisces part of the chart and the Aries part of the chart. The new moon in Pisces on the 18th of March created a 4-week window where we are required to take the steps and the next right step and the next right step and the next right step to bring the Pisces part of the chart into alignment with what we value. Some element of this includes continuing to build what the North Node eclipses want us to build in the Pisces part of the chart. Some element of this involves stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And as Mercury moves forward, starts to move more and more forward in the Pisces part of the chart, we will find, fascinatingly, with Mercury in the Pisces part of the chart and Mars in the Pisces part of the chart, our ability to take action to pursue goals and set boundaries, that things that we have been pondering about in terms of communicating and transacting, all of a sudden the energy appears and the path's clear for us to start sending out those communications and actually start to triage whatever is kind of bleeding or messy in the Pisces part of the chart and start to repair it. So that's nice. But what it means is that for the first half of this week, you're likely going to feel like, I have the energy, but circumstances are just not allowing me to move at the speed that I want to, even though the will is there, but the internet is out, or the alarm goes off. And so now editing this video together and uploading it is going to take me longer than I planned. Crap like that. But as the week progresses, you might find that, oh wow, I'm actually getting moving on this. Point number 6, 5 or 6, whatever it is, the Aries part of the chart is starting to gather momentum also, and has a certain amount of pressure associated with it, although that pressure is still very internal. The two aspects that we've got this week, on the 25th, the Sun conjuncts Saturn, and on the 26th, Venus conjuncts Chiron. And all these planets are in the Aries part of the chart. And I am left to marvel at the fact that these aspects in the Aries part of the chart is gathering momentum, just as I am in the membership part of my channel, starting to do the videos about Saturn and Chiron in Aries, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, along with Chiron. I didn't plan to do the Aries specific membership videos at this time. It's just turned out that way. And it just feels so topical. So far, I've done the Cancer rising video. I'm doing this general one, and then the plan is to move on to the Leo rising and the Capricorn rising and the Sag rising and so on and so forth. All of them will get done. I'm feeling this sense of importance and urgency to try and get, really, if I can get them all knocked out this week, then we'll really be honoring the time and the timing of this. Because right now the energy is still somewhat internal, but when we get to that new moon in Aries on the 17th, you're going to have Neptune, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Chiron, the Sun and the Moon in Aries as you get to April the 17th. And even though April the 17th is awfully close to April the 22nd, when Taurus season begins, April the 17th onwards, the Aries part of the chart, we have a new moon that has a direct Mercury encoded into it. And Mercury is conjuncting Mars, and they're both conjuncting Saturn at the time of that new moon. So whatever's going on in the Aries part of the chart, however tumultuous it may seem at present, however aware you might be that there are energies from 2025 that need to be processed, and you need to try and make sure that you are not underselling yourself. I'll paste a link to that video that I did on February the 17th. And yes, the theme that I'm talking about now, the reason why I did the Cancer rising video for Saturn and Neptune, and it actually took me a couple of days just to kind of sit with it, as I could see where the energies were going. And then I was like, I want to do this general video because I want to get this information out to everybody. And it actually then provides another platform on which these rising sign specific videos in the membership part of the channel can rest. We're in the phase right now where Venus conjuncted Neptune and then Saturn, and is now moving to conjunct Chiron on the 27th. But Venus conjuncted Saturn and Neptune just after that March 3rd full moon lunar eclipse. And the Sun conjuncted Neptune yesterday and is moving towards conjuncting Saturn on the 25th. And then is going to conjunct Chiron on April the 6th. And then by the time we get to the middle of April, Mars and then Mercury will come in and make these conjunctions. And the conjunctions with Neptune, importantly, will have occurred for all personal planets before the new moon on the 17th. But with the new moon on the 17th, the conjunctions of Mars and Mercury with Saturn will be encoded into that new moon. It's very, very telling. In addition, point number 6 or 7, as this week moves forward and as we get towards the end of the week, on April the 1st, not Wednesday of this week, but the following Wednesday, April the 1st, we have a full moon in Libra, and that full moon is going to bring something to a close on that Aries-Libra axis. That is, we're going to then see the repercussions of that for about 2 weeks after the Aries full moon, and then the new moon will occur in Aries on April the 17th, and we'll be able to start to build something new. Just as the full moon lunar eclipse on March the 3rd closed something out, maybe in a somewhat dramatic way because it was an eclipse, or an intense way, on the Virgo-Pisces axis, so that when the new moon occurred on March the 18th, we became aware that we're going to be moving towards a new paradigm in the Pisces part of the chart. Somewhat slowly, typically we can start to move towards it right after the new moon, but considering the new moon occurred, Mercury was stationary, Mercury just went direct 3 days ago on Friday, today is Monday, Mercury is slowly creaking forward, it's not quite as fast. As this week progresses, you will find that the energy to be productive is going to meet up with the astrological energy that will find you a channel to be productive as this week progresses. So in many respects, it's a great week to be productive, especially as you head past today and tomorrow into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So chop wood, carry water. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other in terms of productivity, so that as this week moves forward, the energies of a forward-moving Mercury there's actually something to fly forward on the heels of Mercury, on the wings of Mercury. And hopefully towards some sort of resolution. Whether that resolution is a big change, remember that the card for March is the death of something old card. Some of you have dealt with this energy in very personal ways. And the card for April, tellingly, is the Hierophant. Wisdom. Spirituality that you glean from, spiritual learning. Wisdom, learning. Raising our vibration. Someone, a tarot reader that on YouTube, that I talked about the Hierophant being learned wisdom as opposed to inner intuitive wisdom, which is the High Priestess. So we're still in March for another week. So as this week progresses, also expect productivity to fall in line with the astrology and astrological energies. And as you head towards, really it's going to be next Monday, Tuesday, when things will start to become a little bit full moony and a little bit all over the place and intense. But as this week progresses, as we get to the weekend, we're going to be more in that full moon energy. That said, once we get past Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, we should, at least for the rest of the week, be able to see things kind of move forward in a particular direction. Now, let's talk about the astrological aspects of this week: Sun conjunct Saturn and Venus conjunct Chiron. If in the Aries part of the chart, having Neptune and Saturn there, again, we had them in Aries in the middle of 2025, and I talked about the fact, and there was a video I posted on February 17th, and I will place a link to that video at the end of this video. I think I'm wearing the same t-shirt in that video. So weird. This t-shirt since then has gone through laundry, and I just put it on today. There's been a haircut since then, which is nice. If you're building something Neptunian in the Aries part of the chart, then Venus and the Sun conjuncting Neptune and Saturn are going to be about encouraging you to start to move forward with really coming up with a plan and executing a plan to make things happen. We're talking about artistic goals, photographic goals, dance, music, inspired by the muses, images, film, TV, on camera. We're talking about spirituality. We're talking about renunciation monasteries. We're talking about charity. If those kinds of goals are present, then Saturn, along with Neptune now in Aries, Saturn's going to be in Aries till April the 12th, I think, of 2028. Then they're basically saying, all right, let's get going. Let's actually have a concrete plan. Don't just dream about this. Let's make it happen. The thing that I am seeing around me, and I just had a reading yesterday that confirmed this to me, again, in the Aries part of the chart, be careful not to undersell yourself. There could be experiences and lessons and learnings from 2025 around making sure that in the Aries part of the chart that you are riding the right horse and that you are setting the bar in the appropriate place, and you're watching the company you're keeping as well, so that the vibration can be kept high and creative and excited. You need to keep an eye out and watch for manipulative behavior where someone is trying to usurp you, behavior where someone might be trying to keep you in a certain place or feed you a certain amount of hogwash because it suits them. Or it very often, underselling ourselves can involve finding ourselves in rooms where we might have more experience than others, but it's really lovely and flattering to be involved. And very often with those kinds of situations, people, because they might see that we are operating at a certain level, they may want to attach us to them. And so it becomes important just to make sure that no one is being Neptunian in such a way that it ends up compromising what is really right and what is best for you. Sometimes it can be done out of someone having what they think are good intentions. Well, I don't think that this is right for this person, so I'm actually going to see if I can intervene to block this opportunity for them. Really what they're doing is saying that'll leave this person free to have their opportunity. Just make sure that what you are saying yes to and who you're involving yourself with and how you're moving forward sets the bar at a certain level, so that you can learn from experiences in 2025 and be around people whose vibration is at a certain level and you're pursuing the right kind of opportunities. And here's the thing about pursuing the right kind of opportunities. They might just feel like they're going to take more effort to manifest. With Saturn involved, you're not talking about setting the bar so high that it's a ridiculous goal. That's a Neptunian thing to do, and Saturn is trying to counter that. At the same time, you're not trying to set the bar so low that as much as it's going to feel good to jump over that bar, you also somewhere know that it's not going to be stretching you enough and you're compromising yourself. Venus conjuncting Neptune and then Saturn may have given you a sense related to an opportunity, opportunities, artistic, relationships, monetary, where something like this could be in play. And the Sun having conjuncted Neptune yesterday and moving to conjunct Saturn, you may find yourself on this Monday very, very cognizant. The Sun is our internal knowing. And when the Sun meets with planets like Neptune, when the Sun meets with Venus and Mercury and Mars, the Sun informs those planets, and the Moon with the new Moon. Those personal manifestations of our individuated energy, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, get a download from the Sun and get aligned to our connection to Source. When the Sun conjuncts with Neptune, Neptune informs the Sun and says, you are either putting your feet up on this, or you are not boundaried enough on this, or something shady is going on, And then when the sun meets with Saturn, it's a mutual dialogue. Saturn informs the sun informs Saturn. With Jupiter and Saturn, it is a co-creative energy. Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, especially Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, make changes and we have to adjust to them. Mercury, Venus, Mars, the Moon are at our command. With Jupiter and Saturn, they work with us, but they also require us to act. We're co-creating with them. If we co-create an alignment, we get an A+. If we don't co-create with alignment, particularly with Saturn, we get a rap on the knuckles. That's being mild. And we all know this. So, as the sun moves towards conjuncting Saturn this week, on the 25th, just be clear that in general, and the sun conjuncts Saturn every year, this is that part of the year when we have to take everything seriously. So if this week, especially the first half of this week, just feels really, in Hindi, there's a word called gambhir, and you can hear the sound of it. It sounds weighty and serious. And with Saturn, things are weighty and serious, and they are. There's no. The next 2 or 3 days may really feel like there isn't much room for frivolity, and there's a lot to process, and there's a lot that we're trying to move forward on, but the momentum may not be there, and we're pondering what it is that we're leaving, and we're trying to utilize our wisdom, and we're feeling, where are we kind of done in by something? So, it's very serious matters. And I'm being a little bit humorous about things, even as I'm saying this, but it's not woe is me as much as it is time to get totally present and grounded. With the sun and Saturn, there is absolutely no room for fantasy or fantasy thinking. Saturn wants us to consider the facts. Wants you to consider your bank balance, wants you to consider whether it is increasing or decreasing, wants you to consider what everything is going on around you, it wants you to look at the facts. It does not want you to assume that things will magically get better. It is basically saying what is real and what are you doing to fix it. And what you're doing to fix it cannot, with Saturn, include I'm waiting for something to come through, or I'm visualizing and manifesting this into existence by dreaming about it. So in the Aries part of the chart, it's very, very likely that with the sun involved and having conjuncted Neptune yesterday and moving towards conjuncting Saturn in 2 days, we are very aware of some sort of energy where we might be feeling like, I'm just not sure energetically about this situation. I feel like my pockets might be being picked. I feel like something is not right. You may not be in a place where you're acting on it. As you get to that full moon in Libra on April the 1st, something may come to a head and you go, here it is, we're putting this to a close and we're moving forward and we're walking away from something. And I'm going to deal with the repercussions of walking away over the next 2 weeks. And after April the 17th, I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to be building something new in the Aries part of the chart and bringing it into alignment with what I value. And by that time, the 2 yang planets, Mercury and Mars, will have conjuncted Neptune, and their conjunction with Saturn and the invitation to build something in the Aries part of the chart where the bar is set in the right place and we're not underselling ourselves is available to us. With Venus conjuncting Chiron by the 17th, it could either be that we're dealing with some sort of consequence related to Venus's conjuncting Neptune and then Saturn and the Sun conjuncting Neptune and moving toward. We're dealing with something relationship-wise, artistic, creative opportunities-wise, finances-wise, where we're just like, oh, This is a bigger theme related to empowerment and self-empowerment and healing and self-healing. And I am dealing with a consequence that is showing me that I am not completely empowered. So I need to work towards that empowerment. Or it could be that by internalizing the energy of the Sun conjuncting Neptune and Saturn, you are at a point this week where you actually start the process of healing your relationship with what Venus is trying to provide to you by not underselling yourself and by looking at opportunities, looking at relationship dynamics, creative dynamics from a much more healed and completed place. So do you feel like I'm not dealing with any more of this crap that I dealt with in 2025 that I became aware of? It could also be, in certain cases, that you just become clear about the kinds of opportunities where you did feel you were underselling yourself ultimately and where you felt you were not. Sometimes in 2025, you could just have gotten a sense of, oh, I like this aspect of working with this organization, but this aspect is giving me a bit of a red flag. As I said in my addendum to the Cancer Rising video, whether or not you feel you are underselling yourself is a very clear internal feeling. You will feel uncomfortable. You could have the opportunity to participate in something and you are not being paid for it, but it feels exciting, it feels right, it feels fun, it feels like it's growing you, it feels like it is a rainbow in your life, it feels like, oh, I would love to do something with these people, it feels right. So whether you're underselling yourself or selling yourself just right does not have to be, it's interesting, in the acting profession sometimes, someone can be trying out a new musical and they can be on this kind of 29-hour contract just to kind of do a reading for the musical, so to speak. You're not going to get paid very much. Someone can look at that and say, well, I shouldn't do that because I'm underselling myself. But let's say that you've been invited to do it and you're so excited to do it and you've never done a musical before or whatever it is. If your insides are making you feel like, oh my God, nothing can stop me from this, I am so in, that's not underselling yourself. By the same token, you could be invited to be part of a big company and doing this, and being offered a part and whatever it is, and you could feel like, oh, why do I feel like, why am I not happy? Why do I feel like I've somehow undersold myself? Now, I'm going to hasten to add that accepting something that is not paying is not always not underselling yourself. It could be part of underselling yourself. So if you're feeling like part of the lessons from 2025 are not to take those opportunities where you're being paid less than what you're worth, or the opportunities are being done in environments that are less than what you've been used to and you didn't feel right about them, then honor that. But I do want to make that distinction that it's an internal feeling of this is right and this is not right. I may have said yes to something because I was feeling a little desperate, because the things that I really want to manifest feel harder, or people are excited to have me and it feels so good to be in the room feeling like I'm kind of know more or have more experience than others around me, and that can sort of provide a quick ego kick for about 2 weeks and then make you feel like, am I demoting myself? Am I hurting myself by doing this? So just that energy is very present. The good news is that once Mars and Mercury are done with the Pisces part of the chart and they enter the Aries part of the chart and they conjunct Neptune and then they move towards, there's something in the Aries part of the chart that's going to come to a close as a result of the Venus conjunction with Neptune and Saturn, as a result of you being very present to this dynamic right now between the Sun conjuncting Neptune yesterday and the Sun conjuncting Saturn 2 days from now. And you resolving, and some element of this could be tied to knowing what you need to leave behind. And then heading to that full moon on April the 1st, and then heading to Mars and Mercury conjuncting Neptune, and then to that new moon in Aries, where it's just like, all right, I've been able to turn the page on something in the Aries part of the chart, and I'm going to be building something new. I'm going to be planting the right seeds for the right type of whatever to bring the Aries part of the chart into alignment with what I value. Carrying forward lessons to make sure that I'm pursuing the right kind of projects, romances, whatever, wherever the Aries part of the chart is. And that Venus conjunct Chiron supports this. It could be that by taking the right kind of stance and bringing the right kind of awareness to what is going on, you heal and you resolve to, and you learn how you're going to act when it comes to relationship opportunities, opportunities in general, creative opportunities, financial opportunities in the Aries part of the chart. Or there could be some element of consequence that you're going to be processing and going, oh, something hasn't quite gone right, and I'm going to have to think about, now that the Sun has conjuncted Saturn and Venus is conjuncting Chiron, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to either address it to repair it, or how I'm going to let go of something so that moving forward, I am opening the right kind of pathways for myself. For some of you, as Venus moves to conjunct Chiron, there could be an opportunity over the next 5 days or so to, because Venus has such a relationship building ability, there could be the opportunity to extend the hand and to repair something. There could be the opportunity to heal something. There could be the opportunity to, if you feel like you've acted in a way that was low vibrational in the Aries part of the chart so far, and the Sun conjuncting Neptune yesterday, and so as you were heading to yesterday, and the Sun conjuncting Saturn in 2 days, and as you're heading to Wednesday, you feel like, you know what, I've learned my lesson, I know where to operate from. The Venus conjunct Saturn by the 27th could make you resolve to even take some sort of action, some sort of diplomatic action, relationship building action, to move towards repairing something. Even if repairing something means that you are leaving something. So let's say that you find yourself involved in some kind of a romantic situation, and you know that it isn't the right situation. You're feeling a little bit like there's something Neptunian going on here, and I am trying to extricate myself from this situation, and I've become aware of my patterns, and I've learned what I've needed to learn. Then there might be an opportunity in some cases, and this you're going to have to gauge for yourself how you feel about this. There might be an opportunity as Venus moves towards conjuncting Chiron on the 27th, that as you head towards the 27th, you're able to pick up the phone or text and say, you know what, respectfully, and please honor this, I'm just not sure that this is the right situation for me. So I'm gonna, and you're gonna have to, it might give you the opportunity to be able to exit or repair something, or at least exit feeling like I've now operated in a way. Sometimes exits can also be, I'm gonna have this conversation, it's going to be focused on trying to keep a bridge standing, but I want to let you know what's actually going to work for me, but what's also not going to work for me. So if I need to kind of turn my back on something, that's fine. If you don't quite do it, as the Sun moves towards conjuncting Chiron, on April the 6th, you really have an awareness of what it is that still needs to be healed with regard to self-empowerment in the Aries part of the chart. And when Mars and Mercury end up conjuncting Neptune in the middle of April, you might, just before that new moon, you might feel like, okay, at that point in time, you might actually have a conversation or take some action to address the Neptunian behavior. With Mars, that's the pursuit of goals and setting boundaries, and with Mercury, that's communication. So far, you've had Venus and Sun, and these are both yin energies. Once Mars and Mercury enter the picture in the middle of April, you might just be in a place where you're like, you know what? I'm turning the key on this. I'm turning the page on this. I'm not going to undersell myself anymore, but I'm also saying my piece. And here's the new one in Aries, and we're building something that is more in alignment. So even though the only aspects this week are Venus conjuncting Saturn and Sun conjuncting Saturn and Venus conjuncting Chiron, it's actually energetically and emotionally a heavy week, because we enter the week raring to go, but finding that the astrological energy is just not moving. The things that, so we're going to have to be patient. Then the energy starts to catch up with us, and then we're in repair mode. With the Sun conjuncting Saturn on Wednesday, you are not going to have a choice but to look at things in very real terms and get clear and get serious about the situations in your life and what you need to do and what you need to address. You could also be in the process of getting very, very clear about how you are not going to get ensnared by anything Neptunian, or if you have Neptunian goals, that you're going to start to work towards them as you head towards Wednesday. And as Venus conjuncts Chiron, you might take some steps to repair a situation. You might really feel like you're dealing with the consequences of succumbing to some sort of Neptunian energies that have a throwback to 2025 or that have been coming up since the end of February. Or you might get to a place where you're like, you know what? I'm actually healing this Venusian side of myself and reminding myself of what it is like to honor opportunities and relationships and financial opportunities and finances in the Aries part of the chart when I come to them from a more empowered place. And then by the time we get to Saturday, Sunday, heading towards next week, that Wednesday, we're headed towards that full moon where some sort of situation we're going to be turning the page on something on that Aries Libra axis. To make room for really, really starting to move forward after April the 17th. For those of you for whom this period of maybe the week of Christmas to the end of the first week of March has brought some sort of a situation that's really bringing down some sort of structure, you may realize that as momentum starts to accelerate starting Wednesday, after that Sun conjunct Saturn and Mercury is moving forward, that you're going to have to put your weight behind starting to create the new and actually seeing that change through. My email address is in the description box below. You can email me there if you're interested in a reading. If you're interested in a discounted 45-minute reading, really it was designed it's 25% off. My rates vary by country, so contact me. If you've done a reading with me before, I have your information. If you have not, let me know what country you're writing from, and I can let you know what that rate is. Contact me by Wednesday, by the end of Wednesday, by the 25th, and it's really meant to be about how all this, because so many of the planets are primarily in the Pisces and the Aries part of the chart. So it's really about the eclipses and Mercury and what their impact on your chart is. If you feel like using 45 minutes for something, just, irrespective, it's available to you. So let me know in the next couple of days and we can schedule it after Wednesday, but at least I've heard from you by Wednesday. And other readings are also available. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. Click on that wiggly bell on top. You're notified when I do new videos. Consider becoming a member, $6.99 a month. Some people charge that for extended videos. You've already got in your dedicated playlists videos on how the Pisces Virgo eclipses that are active till February 27 are impacting the rising signs. Pluto and Uranus and where they're going to be during 2026 and how they're going to trine each other all the way to the middle of 28. I've just finished the videos for the eclipses on the Aquarius Leo axis that are going to be taking us all the way to April of 2028, and I think April 10th of this year to 24th of this year. We're really going to get a start to get a sense of what that February 17th eclipse in Aquarius was about. and I've done 1 of 12 videos about the energies in Aries, with more to follow this week. And then after that, I'm going to talk about Jupiter changing signs from Cancer to Leo in the middle of June. So there's that. You can contribute to the channel for free by liking and commenting on this video. You can contribute monetarily by using the thanks button underneath this video, or using the information description to donate to the channel. You can also hype this video underneath, and the hype gives it greater circulations or whatever that is. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. This weekly overview, I feel really happy at doing it. I feel like it's a useful thing, but I'm sort of, you know, now I've got to edit these 2 videos together. Not a big deal, and then upload it. But then when you do that through iMovie, just, I've got to process this, put this up. I'd love to get the Leo Rising video out today as well. So onward, I've got plenty to do. You guys take care, and I will talk to you soon.